Good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for joining us today. I'm Steve Schmidt, VP of Security Engineering for Amazon Web Services. So the whole discussion about security is one that is really near and dear to my heart. And I especially appreciate the opportunity here to talk a little bit more today about how do we accelerate progress in IT in the federal space, and how do we maintain the velocity that we've currently had. With us today, we have a great panel of folks here, and I want to start off asking Congressman Connolly a question or two. So, Congressman, could you give us some insights into how this upcoming presidential and congressional transition is going to change the velocity that the current administration has established on improving cybersecurity and making an actionable cyber strategy?
It's going to be great, and you're going to love it. Believe me. Well, actually, it's really the first political campaign where we have seen cyber front and center, whether it be the Russian hacking into one of the campaigns, one of the political parties' treasure trove of emails, to WikiLeaks, gradually leaking stuff day by day, week by week, clearly in the hope of having an impact on the actual outcome. One of the two candidates actually encouraging Russian hacking. So I would say as we move forward, depending on who wins the election, one of the two candidates, I think, will probably continue us and hopefully accelerate us on the path we're on, and the other will hand it over, outsource it to the Russians. I thought you needed a little, pick-me-up this morning.
Congressman, thank you. John, it's rare that you get to have a really good laugh when you're doing one of these panels, so I appreciate it.
I love this guy.
John, speaking of acceleration, let's talk a little bit about the success you guys have been having with moving your intelligence operations and your intelligence processing mission ahead, using cloud as an option for accelerating IT.
Excellent. So, first of all, the bumper sticker is it's revolutionized the way we're doing our business. Several reasons. One, when we used to have to buy or provision hardware, first of all, it took months to do. Secondly, we bought too much. We would buy at the maximum capacity of what we thought that particular application needed, only to find over time we actually ran at about 20%. So now we can buy exactly what we need, when we need it, as much as we need it, and when we're done with it, we turn it off. And so that's been amazing. A couple of good examples. Secondly, a little over a year ago, we put our DevOps factory in the C2S cloud, and that's been a game changer for our developers. And we used a carrot, not a stick. We showed them the goodness of coming into an environment like that, where before their dev test and production environments were different, the workstations were different. It took months to get those provisioned and stood up. Now it takes a couple of minutes, and they're all the same. We're always bringing in new tools. But more importantly, we now have 1,600 developers using the cloud and putting code up in our code repository that others can use as well. Again, another game changer. And finally, building on that, we stood up Marketplace in April this year. Now, our goal always in this cloud is to have commercial parity with our Amazon partners. And for the most part, across the hardware, we do. In the applications, they have 2,500 in their Marketplace. We're up to 60, but it's a great start. And we did a demo for our senior leadership a couple months ago. And for a developer to download their development workspace and download an app from Marketplace and start using their data with that brand new application they hadn't used before took about 2.5 minutes. And so again, it is a game changer for us.
Wow, 2.5 minutes. That is a little bit of a change from your previous statement there. Luke, a lot of what John was just talking about involves connectivity, especially things like parity of access to people and the ability for everybody in an organization to take advantage of the speed that one part of the organization used to have. How do you envision public cloud infrastructure interacting with federal data centers?
Yeah, so I wrote down a note when Tony was talking here. It says, wrong horse, dismount, check. And I would say that we envision that evolving, right? For some of us that have been early adopters, of course, the agency has a bit of a different kind of model. But I think between the two of us and sort of what's, I would say, loosely representing what the civilian side is doing, we're all in this sort of a hybrid type of configuration. And we got there sort of one step at a time, right? Certainly we are very interested in continuing to build out our private infrastructure where it makes sense to do that, and we'll run those legacy environments in there. But as you can see, many of us, and you'll hear throughout the day today, including some of the folks from DHS, a very aggressive posture into the cloud environment. That requires a hybrid configuration. That requires a evolving security posture. I always like to say we need to take on some risk to lower our risk. And we're learning how to do this properly, and we're learning how to do it swiftly. And I think what Tony pointed out is very important. Time to market is incredibly important. The ability to get this type of operational capability in our operators' hands is a mission essential situation for us, for all of us. Secondly, we feel the cost structure is significant, and we can take that and reinvest it into some of these areas. What's interesting to watch is how some of the technology, including our keynote speaker, is evolving to help us make sure that as we expand that hybrid configuration, we make sure that we do that securely.
Awesome. So, Congressman, sort of riffing off of that, there's the statement of you got to take a little risk to reduce risk. So what is it that Congress can and should be doing to facilitate IT modernization and transformation, getting rid of that unnecessary risk?
Well, for us, I think the undergirding legislation that's going to guide all this is FTARA, also known as Conley-ISA. But that creates the legislative framework for moving forward, and we hope enough flexibility for folks like John and Luke to be able to manage with broad parameters, because we understand there's enormous diversity within the federal family, and one size fits all is not going to be appropriate. And we have to sort of start where we are and work up hybrids, work up replacing legacy systems, and understand that missions vary enormously across those 24 federal agencies. So we want to see, first and foremost, full, robust implementation of FTARA. And unlike Klinger-Cohen back in 1996, we're not going anywhere. So we're going to be around next year to insist on that implementation with oversight hearings and so forth. And then we want to get the Senate and the lame duck to pass the MGT Act, which does essentially two things: creates that modernization fund, at least authorizes it to incentivize agencies to upgrade their technology systems, and secondly, to allow them to reinvest in themselves when they effectuate savings from FTARA. And we passed it unanimously in the House, and our hope is the Senate will act in the lame duck session. Moving forward, we've got the transition, and I am concerned that we lose momentum, as we always do in this time period. So what other corporation would completely change its management team, 100%, with the arrival of a new CEO? But that's what we do every 4 years or 8 years here in Washington. So I'm really concerned about consistency and not losing the momentum we've worked so hard to build. So my hope is, like your keynote speaker, Tony Scott, will remain in the new administration. And hopefully he'd be willing to do that and be able to maintain the team we've got.
So something that the Congressman just said, John, sort of struck a chord with me, and that was how there's a variety of different capabilities in different federal organizations around security especially, and how we want to raise the bar for everybody. So how have the cloud commercial security practices that you've been exposed to changed the way that CIA has improved its cyber posture inside the agency?
So a couple things. One is we've always had a pretty good cybersecurity program internal, but it's never good enough, and it's constantly evolving as the threat's constantly evolving. What Amazon brought as part of our C2S cloud is a battle-tested proven set of security overlays and conditions that we're now able to build on top of. And I think collaboratively, we've learned from Amazon, and Amazon, quite frankly, has learned from us with some of our unique requirements and needs, to where they've taken some of the things that they've implemented for us that were kind of unique and actually deployed them back out to the commercial world as well. So that partnership is fantastic. As far as in the government, we're part of the Community's Eyesight Initiative, and that's gone very well. I work with primarily the other 4 big agency sales, but we work across the whole 17. But it's a fantastic group of individuals. We're doing some amazing things. We're leveraging each other's best practices, which I think is huge, because at the end of the day, we need to, again, raise the level, the old saying, to float all the boats up to the level where it's all consistent across the 17, and I think we're on a good momentum and good trajectory to do just that.
I think it's something that a lot of people lose sight of, is the fact that because information sharing is so important to all federal organizations, the protection of information is something that everybody has to do properly, because our adversaries will look for the weak opportunity and take advantage of it. So it's especially valuable when you guys learn and improve that you pass it on to the others out there. Luke, so let's speak a little bit about the development process itself. One of the areas that people are very interested in is how can moving to cloud accelerate their ability to deploy new systems and do so safely, securely, and at lower cost. So in your opinion, how has agile development affected the development of software and services within the government space? Are you seeing that have a real impact on the federal IT support?
Significant. I would say this is it's really taking advantage of a tectonic shift in the way that solutions are being delivered. If you think about the whole idea about DevOps, if you look at the digital playbook, which I'm sure Mikey and Haley will talk about, or Eric will this afternoon, the first thing in there is, focus on what the user's needs are, right? And from there, sort of build accordingly. And what this capability allows us to do is build accordingly. And you heard some of that. We are building business purpose-built systems in a fraction of the time at a fraction of the cost. The other thing that's very interesting is once you sort of open up into that market space, all of a sudden you open yourself up and into an entire market space, right? This is something that the private sector, a lot of our partners in different types of engagements are doing in spades across the globe. And we can take advantage of that industrial base to take advantage of things like open source technologies and those kinds of things, which is very significant. So for us, our personal or our agency experience within DHS, it's been dramatic. It's been significant on all 3 of those variables, right? Cost, schedule, and performance to the user. And I don't see that changing across the community. I only see that getting more and more significant as time goes on. There is a lot of pent up demand for our users. I mean, both of us, every CIO faces this all the time, right? These significant challenges to deliver these solutions in a timely fashion, right? We're in an arms race, so to speak, and it's very important to take advantage of, again, what I would consider a tectonic shift in the way these capabilities are being made available to us.
And you have more user demand than you possibly have developer bandwidth, I'm sure.
Yeah, and look, it's not just this department. Every department has those user demands that are significant here. I'm sorry about that. My earphone here is getting the best of me. So
it's trying to take off on you.
I had one thing
Please.
So we were talking backstage is building on that. I mentioned earlier the DevOps factory and building cybersecurity into our applications as they're being developed instead of waiting is huge. And so we're on a path right now that we want to not only have production ready tested code at the end of each one of our sprints, but have ATO'd, approval to operate at the end of each one of those sprints as well. So when we get done with the development effort, we're really done, and it doesn't have to go through another 6 months or 9 months of ATO. So that's our goal.
And I think that you don't call it out explicitly, but one of the real benefits on the finance side is when you have that very short period of review of the code, if you have to make a change, it's a couple weeks worth of change as opposed to having to tack new security onto something at the end of several years of development. And I think that's something that a lot of people may not appreciate
you can
directly.
tear this stuff down and rebuild it instantly,
Absolutely.
right? 2 minutes, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what you can do with some of this technology now.
Congressman, could you close us out with a statement, please, about do you think there's an understanding in Congress on how commercial cloud services can help organizations improve their security posture?
I've been surprised, when I came to Congress, I guess, to be honest, I've been surprised at the lack of expertise and lack of interest, broadly put. Doesn't mean they're not supportive, but it's just not their lane. And that has surprised me, frankly, given where some of the members of Congress come from. And I come from a high-tech district, but I'm not unique. I do believe most of my colleagues, however, want to be supportive. They've been alarmed at some of the cyber breaches, both in the private sector and the public sector. Certainly the OPM breach got everybody's attention because half of our staffs and most of us are part of that breach. So now it's personal. And so trying to understand what contributed to that, I think really is very important, and I think it's created a receptive and fertile ground for the ideas we're talking about here. But moving forward, much of what we're facing is a management challenge. I think John and Luke would agree. I mean, it's the culture. It's getting support at the top. It's empowering CIOs with ability to make decisions and live with them.
And willing to accept some of that risk,
And-
right?
and to
that's
accept
just
that
not
risk.
where you typically, you heard Tony talk about, you stink, you're bad, et cetera. We have to be willing to take some of that on and experiment with some of that capability as we plow this path forward, right?
And you need Congress to not always exploit it when it goes wrong. Resist the political temptation to have yet another hearing on, taxpayer fraud or waste. Well, Steve Jobs said he learned a lot more from his failures than his successes.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, folks.